How's it going, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and we have a breaking news segment to get into right now, as the Mets just acquired one of the best relievers out of all eligible relievers, a guy that I did not know was initially available, but he was in fact made available, and the submarining veteran right-hander and Mr. Tyler Rogers from the San Francisco Giants. But wait, it doesn't just stop there, everybody, as we're all focused on this instead of the Mets series finale today. I think we can all agree now up until the deadline, the main focus right now is what the Mets do trade-wise. And what the Mets just did is land one of the most crafty quality right-handers that they could have landed, but it came at a price. And not only did it come at a price, but it came at a price I think far greater than some of you Mets fans were at least willing to stomach initially. As not only did the Mets trade Jose Butto as a corresponding reliever going the other way, but the Mets also traded flame-throwing prospect number 10 curling the Mets farm in Tidwell, and yes, one of their top outfield prospects, but obviously not as good as Carson Bench clearly, and Mr. Drew Gilbert. No one should be surprised at all by the Mets trading the three players that they traded. However, in the context of what the Mets just got and what the trade was, I completely understand if some fans feel that maybe this was a little too steep, or that they just really were not expecting to give up this many assets for one there in Tyler Rogers. We're going to get into Rogers because when I tell you guys that I absolutely love this pickup, that too is an understatement. I've liked Rogers for at least the past 5 seasons now. He's so unique. There's pretty much no other reliever in the game today like him, and that's why Rogers currently has a 1.8 ERA with a sub-1 whip, 0.80 to be exact. So to any of you casuals coming in right away saying, uh-oh, Wardy, the Mets got absolutely fleeced here. Uh-oh, the Mets didn't make a good trade. No, what the Mets just did was landed one of the better relievers that they could have added to this bullpen, and they're not done. And when we evaluate Drew Gilbert, Jose Butto, and Tidwell, what did all these players have in common, everybody? What they had in common is as follows. Drew Gilbert, even with having a tremendous past month and a half of baseball, the Mets clearly don't love Drew Gilbert. And not only do the Mets not love Drew Gilbert, but David Stearns, who did not acquire Drew Gilbert, because that was under Billy Epler's regime, did not have the same ties and bias the way that obviously Epler did. Same thing with Luis Angel Acuna, as it looks like that there's a great reality that Acuna is traded by the Mets at some point in the next 24 hours. This is exactly what's happening now, everybody. The Mets are parting ways with players that they knew that they weren't going to be keeping on the roster. Drew Gilbert, we knew was going to be out of here. Jose Butto was pretty much inevitable to be dealt, because if you guys really thought that Butto was going to be getting any key opportunities for the Mets post-trade deadline, I got a bridge to sell you. So that is not at all surprising to see that part of the deal. Where things get a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, is not necessarily just Drew Gilbert, but also Tidwell, because Tidwell is a name that we pondered as potentially part of a deal for Luis Robert or somewhere else as a back-end top 10 prospect. But now that Tidwell is out of the mix as well, it's a 3-for-1 trade, and the most unappealing aspect of this trade out of everything else, without a doubt, is the fact that the Mets just gave up 3 assets of control for 1 rental reliever. The upside, Tyler Rogers is good. If he wants to return to the Mets, and if the Mets want him to come back, there's a great reality that he's going to come back to the Mets after the 2025 season. The downside right away that you say as a Mets fan is you just lost Drew Gilbert. If he becomes anything, then you say to yourself, oh my goodness, I just acquired a rental for was potentially a decent outfield prospect. Then you bear in mind all the other aspects of this, and Jose Butto, I think we can all agree Butto did not have much of a future in this Mets organization, especially as a reliever, the way that he's been fickle this year. But between not only himself, Drew Gilbert, and Tidwell, I completely understand the initial reaction to say, hey, these were a decent amount of assets. But then you have to ask yourself as a Mets fan, if this is what it costs to land Tyler Rogers, just how much it's potentially going to take to acquire a Yon Duran that we broke down in a video literally just before we went live here for you guys to check out. Or maybe it's a Mr. Mason Miller. As we know, the Mets are officially in the market for Mason, that we're going to be expanding on at great length later on today, guys. In case you guys did not see, the Mets are in the market for an abundance of relievers, but Mason Miller does in fact fall in that category. And yes, guys, there is a world where the Mets do trade away one other top pitching prospects if it means that they get a controllable weapon the way that Mason Miller certainly fits in that area. So I understand everyone's initial reactions, and obviously you have fans that are happy about bringing in Rodgers, and you have fans that are obviously concerned about giving up a lot of controllable assets right away for a guy that might not be here beyond this season. Let's see here. This proves Wardy doesn't know shit. It's okay. Just tell me you're a casual without telling me you're a casual. I would love for anyone to come in here and try to challenge me on what I do and don't know when it comes to this Mets team and when it comes to deadline acquisitions. By all means, go ahead and act like you know more than I do. It's not going to get you far, I promise. It's almost like I literally do this for an entire living and have for years. years. When I tell you that there's a lot of pros that come with Tyler Rogers, that's an understatement. When I also tell you that, yes, you had to give to get in this area, and you don't love to see, obviously, giving up controllable assets, that too is true at the same time. Believe it or not, folks, you can be content acquiring a player while not being overly happy to see some of the guys that you parted with, especially in the fact that it was all in one bulk area versus it being, say, one. If this was a situation where if it was one or two of those assets for Tyler Rogers, that's easier to stomach. The fact that it's all three when you would have maybe liked to spread out that a little bit more to see if you could trade them in other areas, I completely understand that counter as well. Thank you guys for the donations as you guys chime in live on a replay. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way in, everybody, as we're breaking down the latest breaking news. A bigger trade than we initially thought for the reliever there and Tyler Rogers, that you guys can see. We got the $5 holla from my guy Mike in the chat. Says, Andy just tweeted the deal not official. They still have medical stuff to figure out. I don't care. It's happening. Jose Butto actually literally just left the Mets bullpen as we speak. We're officially on Hug Watch. This trade is happening. This has initially been broken from The Athletic, has been reaffirmed by multiple people since then that we have seen. So even though the medical thing still has to get figured out, we are aware of that. I wouldn't go beyond that. Look at all these casuals. I'm getting texts in my chat right now. Let's see. The deal is rejected by our model as an overpay by New York and baseball trade values. See, this is why you don't utilize a stupid simulation that can't properly account for other factors that go behind why a trade happens. That's why I don't use baseball trade values much at all, because they're completely flawed in certain areas, nothing personal to them. But I understand we all agree it's an overpay on the forefront. If Rogers walks, and if any of the guys the Mets just trade becomes something of significance, then you're gonna regret it. What you don't regret is that if the Mets bring in Rogers, he is as advertised like he's been all season long, and on top of it all, Rogers helps propel you to potentially a championship. Not a single fan is gonna sit here and say, oh, but guys, we got rid of Drew Gilbert. Remember Jose Butto and his meatball fastballs that we all hated outside of him not being able to command the zone? Or what about Blade Tidwell? He throws 99, yet can't have his own mess in 3 innings. Blade Tidwell was never going to profile as a starter in this organization. Drew Gilbert did not have a clear path for the outfield, and that's why you saw the Mets clearly play the game the way that they did with him. The fact that the Mets went out of their way to trade Drew Gilbert for a rental reliever tells you all you need to know on how they evaluate him. If you really think that the Mets love Drew Gilbert, they wouldn't have even considered him in trade talks, let alone for a rental reliever where there's no guarantee that he's back beyond the 2025 season. Scott, way too much. Scott is not happy about this deal. That's fine. You guys are all entitled to your opinion. We're going to break down these pros and cons in a second. I guess that means we aren't getting Duran, then Mike said earlier, but I like the trade now. Get Robert Jr. and get me Gallen. If the Mets landed Robert and Gallen, I'd be ecstatic if those were their next trade deadline moves. And regardless of what the Mets do or don't do trade deadline wise, we're going to break it down all on the platform as we always do to each and every one of you as it happens. Mothman, trading Gilbert was a huge mistake. Watch, shaking my head. You know, if I'm being honest with you, I like Drew Gilbert, but I've never really been, loving Drew Gilbert. You know, Drew Gilbert, unfortunately, since he went down with his hamstring injury, that was the demise of the majority of his 2024 season. That was the start of the end for Drew Gilbert even staying in this Mets organization. Then you add in the fact that the Mets are 1,000%. They are guaranteed to land an outfielder from now up until 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, everybody. So in case you guys are wondering, what is next for the Mets? What are they planning on doing? Why would they make these moves? Why would they do that? It's all because of everything that I'm relaying to you right now. The Mets are going to be adding in a reliever. It's likely going to be one of Robert, Mullins, or potentially someone else in the Steven Kwans, the Ramon Laureanos of the world that we broke down in content, a video that dropped right before the Mets game started today. I don't even know what the status of the Mets game right now because I'm way too locked in on everything that's been happening in the rumor mill. Nathan says, I didn't think Stearns had the ruthlessness in him. I love it. He's proved me wrong. So, okay, you have fans that actually like the fact that he went ahead and made this kind of trade happen too. There we go. We have some nice back and forth going on. Can we trade for Shane Bieber? Says Mark. I appreciate the donation. I don't see the Mets trading for Shane Bieber. If the Mets trade for a starter, it's going to probably be someone of, not that Shane Bieber's bad, but I don't think Shane Bieber is the guy that the Mets have on their radar currently. Don't mind losing Tidwell and Butto, but Gilbert stains. If I'm being completely honest, everybody, I feel like Gilbert only stains more because of the fact that at the time of acquiring him, he seemed like such a big deal. And I know that Gilbert had a great, and I mean fantastic, summer. This is your worst take ever? No, it's not. I've had much worse takes than this one. And I'm especially not having the worst take when I'm literally breaking down why the Mets made a trade that they did, that David Stearns likes a hell of a lot more than any other fan, which is why he, the president of the baseball club, made the decision that he made. Color me shocked. It's almost like the Mets front office has an idea as to why they make the decisions that they do. And all I'm here is to basically be the man to relay that information and tell you why they made the deal, why you have a rightful reason to be bothered by it maybe being an overpay, but the reality that this came at that price for a reason. And the belief that the Mets could have landed Rodgers for cheaper clearly was in the realm of possibility. Otherwise, they would have made that happen. Giving up on Gilbert hurts, but it hurts the 26 Mets. It only hurts the 26 Mets if the Mets don't have someone comfortably in center field. And they most certainly are going to probably fill that void, fill that need as soon as today. If Rodgers, as soon as today, if not tomorrow. If Rodgers makes this team a few games closer to winning a World Series this year, I'm okay with it. And that's what you need, guys, bear in mind. You have to give to get. And I really don't understand why we're having fans out here that aren't understanding this, especially for the ones that don't pay attention, don't watch the prospects all year, but as soon as one is dealt, they say, oh no, what do you mean? I've always loved Drew Gilbert, even though I haven't watched a game of his since he was a prospect in the Astros organization. But we're going to go ahead and make that silly tangent as if it's otherwise. Dave with the $2 holla states, we should have gone Wilmer too. Wilmer Flores would have been fun. Do not get me wrong. Let's see this. This trade, yeah, I disagree. I disagree with this, actually, in the front. My guy, Michael Marito, I'm getting my Padres fans trying to tell me that this was a bad trade. Casuals all around. Focus on your pods. Oh. Oh my goodness gracious. Killing me. Actually killing me. Because I'm getting texts right now for people talking about the game because I got Padres fans right now, but I'm not locked in on this game. I'm locked in on this trade that just happened because one, it literally just did, and two, we have a lot of back and forth in how we feel about it as Mets fans. And again, I understand. If you guys haven't already, though, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe on your way in. It's a fantastic way to support the platform. Check out our promo code WardyNYM for 10% off your next ticket purchase there at SeatGeek. Thank you guys kindly for doing that, as well as checking out our Wardy Day tickets that are still available. We have less than, I believe, right around 5 or so still available for you guys to check out in the comments down below and the pinned comment to our replay viewers for a very exciting day there at Citi Field. But we'll get into more of that a little bit later on the show. We got some more donations I want to address, and then I want to break down more on what the Mets are getting in Rodgers and why you should be appealed by him, as well as obviously grieving to an extent depending on the fan that you talk to. The Mets trading away prospects, just like Pete Armstrong sucked. No, first of all, Pete Armstrong was a far more heralded prospect at the time when the Mets traded him than Drew Gilbert. If you understood the context of when PCA was drafted, what was the biggest concern with him and being traded? It was the fact of if he could get that bat right, he could be something special. When it comes to Drew Gilbert, not a slight on Drew, but Drew is not even close to the defender in the outfield the way that PCA is. He's not the base runner the way that PCA is. And PCA is obviously blossoming into something special that I wish the Mets didn't trade away, but I didn't love the trade on giving up PCA in the process either. I liked Javi Baez when he initially came in, but I knew that that was a steep price to pay when that trade first happened. I don't have that same feeling to the same degree as I do here with Tyler Rodgers. I do understand it's a lot of assets for one rental, so that alone warrants the fan reaction, and I get that. Matthew with the $5 holla, love the move. Rodgers is great, and Gilbert's been gone. Means Robert to Queens. Trust, I didn't even realize Rodgers was available. We didn't realize Rodgers was available either. That was a big thing because the Giants have been toying as if they're going to be buying or selling or not, but they bought while they sold while they're probably still going to be buying to a degree because Jose Butto is going to be able to eat innings for them. They might be able to get Blade Tidwell to blossom as a reliever the way that they got Joey Lucchesi, for example, to blossom as a reliever in limited sample sizes this year. You also look at Drew Gilbert. He has a chance to thrive, but I wish Drew the best of luck. That'll be easier said than done, playing half his season there in San Francisco at Oracle Park, which is notoriously known not as a hitter's park. Now, I know Citi Field really isn't much of one either, but the point I'm trying to make is, everybody, is that when we actually have a reason to lose sleep over giving up these prospects and these young talents, we will worry about it. We will worry about it then. For right now, you have to understand the upside and why David Stearns went out of his way to make this deal. And Clifford with a $5 holla states the following: I hate this trade not because Rodgers sucks, but because we gave up so much for rental. This is a return for a pitcher with control. You must go all in after this. I think the Mets are going all in, though. I think that's the other thing that we have to say here. Now, I don't know if the Mets are going to land a starter as much as I would like them to, and the reason why I say that is it's easier said than done to land a starter when clearly the asking prices are astronomical right now. The fact that the Mets gave up 3 controllable assets for a Tyler Rodgers is telling. But in case you guys don't know just how good Tyler Rodgers is, let me relay and explain it all to you guys right here, right now. I can't be okay with this. Chris, I can be okay with this as long as Rodgers pitches the way that he's supposed to, meaning all he needs to do is be the guy that he's been all season long, and for Rodgers to help the Mets get over that hump to have greater success than what they did last year. As long as Rodgers helps in that regard, that's all I care about. If Rodgers comes in and he's batting practice, and he's horrendous, then I will be the first to tell you how much I hate this trade in hindsight. But that is one of those things where only results will dictate really how we feel. Until then, It's just all of our personal opinion and seeing what's going to matter most. Because what we know what matters most is what the immediate product is of what's going to help this team right now. What we know regarding this team right now is that the Mets have primed their bullpen in a far greater position to succeed now than where they were 24 hours ago. Adding Tyler Rogers and Gregory Soto are two quality arms, but Soto is a flamethrower that can be a little bit of a wild thing. Tyler Rogers is literally as good as they get when looking at a dominant, crafty, mind you, submarining southpaw. Just look at that. Harrison Bader in the highlights from last year beside me stood no chance there. It's so deceptive. There's nothing you could do. It's not like he throws gas, but when you have a high-rising pitch at 73 miles per hour, high-rising, where it starts low and somehow goes high, it doesn't matter really how fast or slow it is. Guys don't know how to hit it. It's so deceptive. And that's why I've been obsessed with not only Tyler Rogers of the Giants, but Taylor Rogers, not even when he was teammates with his brother there in San Fran, but going back to when he was with the Twins. We were covering Taylor Rogers as southpaw, how much I would love him in this bullpen, going back to 2021. I love the Rogers brothers, and I feel spoiled in the sense that I talked Gregory Soto into existence a little bit, and Tyler Rogers is not at all a guy that I personally had on my radar, so this really caught me off guard, but I'm not complaining about it either. And Mario with the $5 donation does state the following: Yanks, Phils, Braves, and that one. Rangers fans saying Mets got fleeced, but I disagree. Gilbert feels slightly above average, but I felt bad for Butto. I mean, I feel bad for all of them in that sense, but when it comes to what the Mets are getting, I would be far more pissed off if the Mets traded for a rental reliever that I didn't think would be quality for this team. I've liked Rogers for years. I've followed him for years. It would be different if we were talking about a reliever that I did not have as much familiarity with or didn't watch at all. That isn't the case. We just have seen Rogers to a certain degree there in our past series against the Giants as well. We know exactly what is happening with someone like him. Talk Quan into existence. I think, check out my breakdown on Quan or a video that dropped earlier today. But right now in order, it's Robert, Mullins, and then maybe one other guy, and then Quan. I would say in the likelihood of Steven Quan coming here. I think Robert, it basically, something needs to really fall through from now up until tomorrow at 6 p.m. for that not to happen, is the vibe I'm getting. Juliet says with the $5 hollow, we can't judge what Stearns did or didn't do up until 6 p.m. tomorrow. All in, baby. Exactly. And they're far from done making moves. And when you understand the context of everyone that they trade here, it makes a lot of sense. More sense than what you initially think. And Michael Marino, everybody, who does a fantastic job for MLB Wide reporting, just reported, I'm told the Mets are still speaking to other clubs about adding an additional bullpen arm. And they still want, and what most certainly get, a center fielder. David Stearns is being ultra aggressive and getting the Mets the pieces they need for a World Series. Wow, color me shocked, as it was reported earlier today that the Mets are arguably the most aggressive team in trade talks right now. Now you mean to tell me that not only do they land Rogers, they're looking for one more pen piece. And yes, guys, the Mets landing another pen piece could be of even higher quality than Tyler Rogers here. Now, you say to yourself, okay, if that's the case, what are we giving up? Because we just gave up a decent haul. I agree. But if you land a Mason Miller, you do not complain about what you give up. You don't even hesitate about trading one of your top pitching prospects. Why? Because it's Mason Miller. The same way that if you have a chance to land Yoan Duran from the Twins, the way that he's probably off the board today, if you can pry him away from the Philadelphia Phillies and build a super bullpen, you go ahead and do that. This is a win now stage with the Mets having the depth to make it happen, to finally tax a little bit of the farm for the sake of helping this team now while not hurting their immediate future either. This is why the Mets have been trying to build their farm as much as they have the past couple of years. It's to allow themselves to be able to be willing to eat what they have to give up asset-wise in turn for immediate help that not only impacts them right now, but in the case of Rodgers, unless he's horrendous for the Mets, I'd anticipate Tyler will be back with the Mets beyond this season, because the Mets are a contending team. As long as he has interest on being on the East Coast and enjoys this Mets clubhouse, he's probably going to return. So I'm already kind of penciling that in, barring changes with how he actually performs. Webb's love with the $5 holla. This is classic stinker shock trade. Mets need Rodgers more than unproven prospects. Butto has regressed. Gilbert's underperformed, and Tidwell is suspect. I agree on all those things. And Tidwell never had a clear path for this Mets team either, because again, we have an abundance of pitching talent. This is the beauty about the Mets having as deep of a farm as they are, and makes biting the bullets in these kind of trades just a little bit easier. And I do want to break down Rodgers' game. I apologize I haven't done a whole lot of that yet. I will in a second. We're just live reacting to this news soon. I want to answer your donations. Hit that like and subscribe on your way in, everybody. I greatly appreciate that as we're breaking down the latest here in Mets land. And Mets fans want to win but trade nothing. This is a business. You either want to win or wait years for prospects to develop. Tidwell, Butto, Gilbert suck. I wouldn't go to the lengths to say they all suck. I think that's being harsh on the guys, right? Let's not just jump on them and pile on them because we trade them away. But the reason as to why the Mets trade them away has everything to do with how the Mets feel player evaluation-wise and how they weren't a fit for the organization going forward. The quicker that you understand that as a fan is going to be the quicker that you understand why not only the Mets, but every team operates the way that they do. That way, you don't have to come in here acting like that you're a deer in headlights, having no effing clue why they make the decisions that they do. Yet in reality, if you just pay attention to the club, if you understand the trajectory of the club, if you understand the status of the organization heading into the season, if you understand what the Mets have an abundance of versus not nearly enough of, it all reaches the same conclusion as to why all these guys being dealt makes sense. The only proper counter, and I understand the initial gut reaction, is that you traded all of them for one rental player. If that wasn't the case, I think fans aren't having nearly as much of the outcry that they're having. Wardy, talked Cruz or Taylor Ward into existence, please. O'Neal Cruz would be electric. Taylor Ward, I just don't see much of the fit unless you're going to basically have him more in the DH position, right? It's not a guy you're going to be having in your outfield all that often. So that's what I have to say about that. O'Neal Cruz would be electric, but I'm not going to get my hopes up on it, Dave. Thank you for that donation, too. I appreciate that. You guys just don't want me to break down Taylor Rogers, do you? But I got to break down Taylor Rogers. So you know what I'm going to do, guys? We have a bunch of your comments they still want to answer. So please do not hesitate from relaying them to everyone that's donated that I haven't gotten to yet. Don't worry. I'm going to be answering your donated comments here in just a second as you guys hit that like and subscribe on your way in. But let's get into actually breaking down what you guys need to know here about Taylor Rogers, why this trade made sense versus maybe why it doesn't in your humble opinion. But before we do all that, everybody, let's just hear a quick word from today's amazing sponsor on the platform, Moomoo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets. Hey Mets fans, if you love diving deep into the numbers like WAR or ERA, then you absolutely are going to love what today's video sponsor Moomoo brings to your investing game. Think Moneyball, but this time for your portfolio. I'm beyond excited to share that Moomoo, the proud trading platform of the New York Mets, is here to level up your investing. Moomoo is a global trading platform currently serving over 25 million users in markets like the United States, Canada, Singapore, and Japan. Whether you're just starting out or if you're a more seasoned trader, Moomoo's app and desktop platform offers commission-free trading on stocks, ETFs, and options, no contract fees either. So plus, you get premium tools, guys, whether it's going to be the institutional grade analytics, Morningstar research, and analyst ratings, all free for funded users. And right now, Moomoo is doubling down for Mets fans. Sign up through my exclusive link down below, make a qualifying deposit, and get up to, yes, 60 free stocks, plus not one but two Mets Suite tickets. Not to mention, Moomoo customers can get free tickets to all Monday home games at Citi Field, and who knows, you may even see me at a game. And with zero commissions and zero contract fees on stock and ETF options, you keep more of your wins. Are you guys ready to trade smarter? Download Moomoo now and swing for the financial fences. And shout out once more to Moomoo for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. All right, let's get one thing clear real quick. Someone said in the chat, Miguel says, Wardy's delusional here. He has never seen a trade he didn't like. That is completely inaccurate. As a matter of fact, I despise pretty much the entire Mets trade deadline there in 2022. I also was concerned about giving up PCA in the blockbuster for Javi Baez in 2021. I was happy about Baez, but I really didn't want to give up PCA. In 2022, I did not love the fact that the Mets' biggest acquisitions were the Darren Ruffs, the Daniel Vogelbachs, and the Michael Givens of the world. I was very underwhelmed, and I kept calling out the Mets that they did not do enough at that deadline. But either you're a newer follower here, or you just forgot, and that's okay, because I didn't. I have the receipts, don't worry. I can tell you firsthand right away my initial reaction to that deadline. It was very underwhelming. I tried to talk up Ruff as much as I could for the sake of why the Mets made the moves, but I was certainly not a lover of them. And we saw the Mets' demise that same season in 2022, as they did not perform nearly as well as we hoped down the stretch initially heading into postseason play. I also have not been a fan of multiple acquisitions the Mets have made over the years between signings and trades as well. If you ask me about those individual players, I'll be happy to give you my exact breakdown and thoughts on each and every one of them. Want to play that game? We can certainly go that game, but all I would suggest is make sure you know what you're talking about. Now, guys, let's get into what I know what I'm talking about, and that has everything to do here with Mr. Yes, Tyler, not Taylor, but Tyler Rogers. I got a lot to say here on Tyler in just a second, everybody. Should Mets swing for Julio Rodriguez? No, that's not happening. Well, the last thing that's going to happen is a guy like Julio getting traded from the Mariners right now. They're trying to buy. They're not trying to sell. My guy Born is calling me right now, but I'm not picking up because he's trying to call me while I'm live. No chance, Borna. If you see this, Borna, you know I'm not even bothering to pick up the phone right now. As we continue on here, though, everybody, Tyler Rogers 50 innings so far this year for Rodgers. What does he have? A 1.8 ERA. Oh, yeah, a 2.1 expected ERA. Oh, yeah, a 2.9 FIP. Oh, yeah, a 2.6 expected FIP, right? He has a right around 7K per nine because, again, he's not a big strikeout guy. That is not Rodgers' game. He's an elite ground ball pitcher is what Rodgers is. Walks per nine, 0.72. Okay, what did Tyler Rodgers do the year before that? Maybe it was a fluke season. Maybe the Mets just invested in a rental and a one-off. They were so clearly fleeced. Oh, yeah, 70 innings last year, 7K per nine, 0.7 walks per nine, 2.8 ERA, sub-3 expected ERA, 3.5 FIP, 3.6 expected FIP. Oh, yeah, surely Tyler Rodgers has been good every single year of his career. But wait, he has, you casuals. 17 innings in 2019, a 1 ERA, a 2 expected ERA, with an 8K per nine, 1.5 walks per nine. 2020 shortened season, 28 innings, 8.6K per nine, 1.9 walks per nine, 4.5 ERA, but a 3.1 expected ERA, a 3.2 FIP, which tells you how unlucky of a pitcher he was with that inflated baseline ERA. 2021, 81 innings, 6K per nine, 1.4 walks per nine, 2.22 ERA, 2.87 expected ERA. Then we get a 2022, 75 innings, right around a 6K per nine to a 2.7 walks per nine. So not a great K to walk ratio, but keeping the ball in the park by only a measly 0.3 home run per nine, a 3.5 ERA, a 3.3 expected ERA, and a 3.44 FIP. But wait, 2023, it had to be bad, right? No, guys, it's not. Tyler Rodgers came at a hot price because of how consistent he's been in his career. 74 innings in 2023, a 7.3K per nine, a 2 walks per nine, a 3 ERA, a 2.7 expected ERA, and a 3.7 FIP. So had some luck on his side, but was still a very productive reliever that year. And the point I'm trying to make, everybody, is that in all the years that Tyler Rodgers has been that guy for the San Francisco Giants, he has been having a better season this year than he's had any of the past seasons. And yes, it probably goes in direct hand with the fact that it's a walk year for Rodgers, and he wants a nice little payday once he can hit the free agent market. Can't blame the Mets whatsoever at all for the sake of wanting to bring Rodgers back should he perform well. I will be the first to be heavily advocating for the Mets to go out and make sure that they bring Rodgers back in with this team beyond the 2025 season if he is at all of similarity to what he has been this entire year as well as his entire career. Did I see your super chat, Justin? I'm not sure if I did. I'm going to go up in the chat and see. If I missed it, I apologize. Just relay what you said, and I'll try to answer as much as I can. I do have some other donations I got to get to here as well. All right, Justin, I see yours. Okay. Here's the donations. Justin with the $5 holla. I think we got hosed on this giving up a top 5 for rental. So here's the thing. The Mets did not give up a top 5 prospect here. Let me enlighten you. Blade Tidwell was ranked number 10 in the Mets farm per MLB pipeline rankings. Drew Gilbert was just around their top 15. None of the Mets prospects that they traded today was higher than number 10 in their latest rankings. Drew Gilbert is not nearly as coveted of a prospect as he used to be. And it not only goes in hand with him not playing much last year and having a slow start this year, his summer has been awesome. Drew Gilbert, the past month and a half, he's been electric. That's why we talked about how he's starting to get noticed. And David Stern said, we got to keep an eye on him. But the problem is that not only did they keep an eye on him, but they went the lengths to say, let's go ahead and let's trade Drew Gilbert because we know he doesn't have an immediate future for this team. My guy James Shiano's in the chat. Love you, James. You guys know him from Mets Up. It was a volume trade. It absolutely was a volume trade. Let's see this. Not a bad trade. It isn't a bad trade, James. And guys, if you guys want to judge my remarks, that's fine. But if you guys know James very well, he's one smart mofo in the Mets community. If he doesn't hate the trade either, you shouldn't. And it's all for the same following reasons. It's almost like David Stearns thought about this before he made the trade himself. You know what I mean? It's almost like they have an idea as to what they're doing. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Thank you so much again for the donation. Justin says, are we going to have to give up both Acuna and Vientos for Robert? Take me off a let? No. If that happens for Robert, I'll be the first to overreact to it and be like, what the hell are we doing here? I do not foresee a world where the Mets trade both Acuna and Vientos and the same deal for Robert. Could I see both of them traded up until the deadline? Absolutely. I think there's a world where at least one of them is pretty much a lock to be gone, but it suggests both in a trade for Luis. I don't foresee that happening. Not a prospects hugger with the $10 haul, my guy says arms are going to be pricey at the deadline, so I'm fine with that. The only two prospects I think are untouchable are Jonathan and Noel McLean. They look special, who can help us very soon. I think the only way you touch those prospects is if you bring in someone like Mason Miller. That's an exception in my opinion. And I know that some of you guys may feel differently, but Mason Miller, you move mountains for if you can make that happen. Because Miller's not only a guy that would be a shutdown reliever for you, but he's a guy that can be stretched back out as a starter again. There's so much potential if you bring in someone like Mason. That's why we're going to talk more about him in our live coverage later on today. Be on the lookout for it. Depending on the status of this Mets-Giants game, I really don't know how much I'm going to cover it for you guys today. Grade this trade. Okay, let's go with this. So that way we're at a happy medium, Mets fans, for all the ones that are pissed off by the so-called overpay by David Stearns and the Mets here. My grade for this trade, I'm going to be giving a C+ to David Stearns. And the reason why I'm going C+ is because I love the player, but knowing that there's a lot of uncertainty as to what the Mets are still going to be doing, we need to see them actually do it, as well as the uncertain future of these players, I'll go C+ because he's a rental and because of the fact that they gave up a lot of assets here. However, it has just as much potential as any to be an A grade for the Mets, as long as Rodgers just pitches the way that he's been. That is literally all the guy needs to do. As long as he is as advertised, every Mets fan is going to be happy. Is it 4-0? Are the Padres cooking us right now? If so, sadly, I wouldn't be shocked to see that. Let me see here. What's the score of the Mets game? I don't even know. I got to pull it up. Oh my God, we're down 4-0. All right, how are we down 4-0? Manny Machado, Clay Holmes, who is proving yet again why the Mets are not relying on Clay Holmes to be a starter. Yeah, do you guys understand this as well? As much as we do not want to see someone like Clay Holmes get exposed the way that he is today, why is it important that Clay Holmes has an outing like he's having today? It's important because to do that right before the deadline, it further forces the Mets' hand to make sure that they go out and go no stone unturned. When it comes to adding more of this bullpen, potentially adding there to the rotation as well, there are various ways that the Mets can go about this, but there's been a long belief that if Clay Holmes cannot provide the innings, that the Mets are more inclined to put themselves in a position to either have one of their top prospects piggyback, or just call up their prospect entirely and have him be a starter while Holmes goes more into the bullpen role. There is various ways that the Mets can go about their future of Clay Holmes. But I think we can all agree that Clay Holmes is far from a certain starter for the Mets to make sure that they have locked into this rotation. There is a great reality that Holmes is boxed out because of what the Mets plan to do and players that they have yet to acquire from now leading up to 6 p.m. tomorrow. And in case you guys do not know, I'm going to be live not only later on today, getting into more on the latest news and rumors regarding this club, but folks, we have a lot going on tomorrow. I mean, a lot going on tomorrow. You guys cannot miss a step with your guy Wardy here. We are covering everything regarding this New York Metropolitan team and what the Mets may or may not be doing there in that regard. We're going to be going over everything probably starting around latest 11 a.m. tomorrow, barring changes, so be on the lookout for that. We'll be live up until 3, where I will then be live for an hour or two in the Bleacher Report app, as well as our YouTube channel for MLB-wide trade deadline coverage. And then I'll be back live on YouTube here for the final hour or so of the deadline in case the Mets plan to do anything else. So be on the lookout for that. Jamil, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. If you guys haven't already, hit that like and subscribe on your way in, as we're breaking down and live reacting to the latest trade in Mets land, as the Mets are bringing in veteran submariner Tyler Rodgers for one Jose Butto, Blade Tidwell, and Drew Gilbert. Now, in case you guys are wondering what the Mets are trading away, in case you guys maybe haven't been too locked in with the Mets this year, but you're saying to yourself, oh my God, why did we go ahead and just get rid of so-and-so? Let me enlighten you just a little bit more on the context of all this, because it's important. Context is always key. If you don't have context, you have no clue what's going on. None of us are even paying attention to the Padres game. No, especially with the Mets losing 4-0, I'm expecting them to get swept. Unfortunately, I think the Mets are going to head in the deadline with one of their worst series of the year. And it sucks, but that's what happens when you play a good Padres team in which they decide to wake up, and the Mets are doing nothing of that with their bats especially. And the rotation, too. I'm not loving what I'm seeing from Clay Holmes, obviously. Cliff with the $5 holla. I'm so mad I am paying to get my rants. Let's see. I'm paying to get my rants heard. Stearns Mets acquire a starting pitcher, another relief pitcher, and a center fielder at this point. He can't half-ass it now. I'm sorry that you're mad about donating this, Clifford, but I appreciate it, one. And secondly, you're only donating it because when we have around 1,000 people in the chat, I'm just going to miss people's comments. It's going to happen. I can't get to everybody as much as I would love to do it. So I appreciate the fact that you're going out your way to donate still, though. I agree the Mets need to go out and acquire a center fielder, acquire another reliever. You know what I'm going to go out on a limb and say, everybody? I can almost promise you with like 85% confidence that the Mets make 2 of those 3 things happen. The one thing that I can't say I have the utmost confidence in is the Mets actually acquiring a starter. And the reason why I say that is if you guys thought that this was an overpay, just imagine how expensive these starters of quality are. Just imagine. And you have to ask yourself, if you're the Mets, are you better poised to build a super bullpen or acquire a starter that you have to give up far more than you otherwise want to give up, and that starter might not be the immediate success story that you're hoping for? The Mets are pondering all these things, and they have so many different trade opportunities set up for them at the time of us talking right now. But what I will tell you is that when it comes to a reliever and when it comes to an outfielder, that's pretty much like a lock. Like, I'll be genuinely surprised, very surprised as a matter of fact, if the Mets don't address both those respective areas. We lost Gilbert. I know you're not happy about it, Alvin. And again, I understand everybody that has a rightful counter and say, I'm not happy to see Drew Gilbert traded. I completely get where you're coming from. I don't hate Drew Gilbert. I have nothing personal against the guy at all. But remember, Mets fans, if the Mets trade for Luis Robert, he's going to be here beyond this season. If you don't think Luis Robert will be here beyond 2 months, I got a bridge to sell you, okay? So what does that mean? Luis Robert will command center field for you next year. Okay, if you have Luis Robert in center, if you have Nimmo in left and you have Juan Soto in right, you guys try to find me the proper spot for Drew Gilbert. Oh yeah, you can't find one because there is little to no room. Now, obviously, this does not account for injuries and consistencies among other things, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the Mets made this calculated decision in direct hand because of the other inevitable moves that they have coming. The Mets would not have been so quick to trade away Butto if they, A, weren't getting a reliever that's much better in return, and B, are planning to still add to this bullpen even after the fact. The Mets want a super bullpen, everybody. That's been made pretty much abundantly clear at this point. Can you post a pitching ninja link regarding Rodgers? Yeah, sure thing. Go ahead. Absolutely. Especially if it's pitching ninja. He does great breakdowns for sure. Wardy, how many 40-man spots open now? That's a good question, Combo, because you got rid of Butto, Gilbert, and Tidwell. Were they all in the 40-man? Right? Were they all on the 40-man? Wasn't Drew on the 40-man? Unless I'm stupid. I mean, I know I'm stupid. You guys don't need to answer that for me, even though I know you well. At least 2 of the 40-man spots are open up, and 1 was replaced by Rodgers. There's at least 1 spot open right now on the 40-man as we talk. So there, I think 2 of them. Okay. There's 1 spot open. Thank you. All right. So there's 1 spot open, which means the Mets are absolutely going to fill that. The Mets are also going to be losing another man on the 40-man when they inevitably trade Luisangel Acuna, because that feels pretty inevitable as well. Love Acuna. I got no OO against the guy, but there just is not a fit here. Outside of being in that pinch runner, platoon role, being that quality utility infielder, there really is not a whole lot to be desired about what Luisangel Acuna brings to the table for this Mets team. Acuna can be far more of a fit with another organization than what the Mets currently have going for them right now. So I would anticipate Acuna is the next domino to fall in the sense of like young players that are fringe major league players. Vientos is a guy that I don't think the Mets are sold on trading at all. But if the Mets acquire a guy like Brandon Lowe, I don't see how Vientos is on this team beyond tomorrow. Because how do you trade for Brandon Lowe, who profiles better at DH and second base, and then you still have Beatty Mauricio, and then you still have McNeil, and then you add in the outfield? Something isn't adding up there. So, yeah, inevitably the Mets have more coming, to say the least. Stearns isn't wasting any time. He is not wasting any time. And as you guys can see beside me, you guys can agree. Of course, as it lags on me, you guys can look at how nasty he is. Look at that submarine action. Like, is that not at least a little bit appealing to you as a Mets fan? I feel like it should be. It should be if you guys at all know how good Tyler Rogers is. 1.8 year rate this season in 50 innings, a .8 whip. A .8 whip. Guy's nasty. A .7 walks per 9. I used to pray for days like this where we had a reliever that could do anything of the sort in this bullpen. Now, as I say this, we have no clue as to how they're going to perform. But what we do know, everybody, what we do know is that not only what we just saw there in Tyler Rogers, but what we also saw in whatever the Mets do from now up until the deadline itself, so many of these players that the Mets are acquiring are not going to be making their Mets debuts until Friday. And in case you guys are wondering why it's important that's happening Friday, it's because we literally only have around 5 tickets left. I will pin it in the chat in a second, everybody, to thousands of you guys watching. But folks, our Wardy Day is just literally a day and a half away. And you guys are not only going to be able to hang out with your guy Wardy, but you're going to see the actual debuts of these guys. Seattle Mariners, everybody, just acquired Caleb Ferguson from the Pirates. That was a really good pickup for the Mariners. They got their lefty. The way that the Mets got Gregory Soto, they got Caleb Ferguson. Really good pickup for the M's. I actually like that a lot for them. But guys, let me show you real quick what we have at Wardy Day in case you guys have interest. Then we'll go back into breaking down more on Rodgers' trade, our initial reactions, and what's next for this Mets team. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way in. Help us get a 500 plus likes for our live viewers, which means only half of you guys got to hit that like button. And because we have 34,000 subscribers, everybody, we are giving away a Mets jersey right around a week from now, everybody. Be on the lookout. Barring changes, next Wednesday, we're going to be giving away a jersey to one lucky subscriber, all as a further thank you for helping us get to 34,000 subscribers as our next short-term goal. But guys, listen up with your guy Wardy and what we have upcoming with Wardy Day, because you're going to get a chance to not only hang out with me, but to see all these Mets players, including Tyler Rogers, in real time make their Mets debut. It's Wardy here, and as you can see, we are at gorgeous Citi Field, and folks, you can get the ultimate, the prime experience with your guy Wardy at our first ever official Wardy Day. August 1st, Mets San Francisco Giants there for the evening game. The day after the MLB trade deadline, you, your friends, your loved ones, select Mets fans will get the ultimate experience with your guy Wardy. Not only are we going to hang out at the ball game together, but folks, look at the seating. We're going to be live here in the left field lounge. You guys will be able to chop it up with your guy Wardy. We're going to be debating as to who's the best pitcher of the rotation outside of Kodai Senga. We're going to be talking about who's the next best prospect to get called up. How do we feel about the trade deadline acquisitions? And guys, as you get back up here then, we are going to be giving you a $18 drink voucher, and with that drink voucher, you guys are going to be able to hit up the bars that we have right outside of here. So easy, so accessible. Again, prime seating, a truly fantastic experience. Our first ever Wardy Day here at Citi Field, guys, where you will get a chance to hang out with your guy Wardy. And the best part too, not only is it this amazing lounge in left field that you guys will hang out with me, but we're going to be on the field, pre-game access there for a group photo op. So I hope to see you, all you amazing Mets fans there. Click the link if you guys haven't already there to check out our available tickets, and let's go Mets. And not only are we going to be sitting here throughout the course of the ball game, you guys can also check out the seats that we have access to all here in the bar area here, right at the Milagro, where you guys can utilize your $18 drink voucher. Again, this is going to be at Wardy Day, August 1st, 2025. Oh wait, yeah, almost forgot. It's also fireworks night. Bang! Hope to see you guys there. There you guys see again, Wardy Day coming at you on August 1st, everybody. Let me just get this pin in the chat, and then we will continue on from here. We got my guy Big Pomp in the chat. What's good, Big Pomp? No time, pardon me. A long time no see, brother. Hope you are doing fantastic. Thank you so much for chiming in. Everyone watching live to our north of 1,000 concurrent viewers, thank you guys so much for hitting that like and subscribe on your way. And we only have 200 likes when we have north of 1,000 viewers, guys. All I'm asking is that half you guys hit that like button. It's a great way to support the channel, one, and two, it's great for the algorithm as well. So if you've been enjoying our breakdown and enjoying everything that we have to say, or even if you're pissed off but enjoy the fact that you at least have an area to vent and share your opinion, please don't hesitate from hitting those buttons. Help us get a 500 plus likes, and thank you guys kindly for exactly that. Now, the Mets, again, for those that are just chiming in, have acquired veteran submarining southpaw there from the San Francisco Giants, and Tyler Rogers in turn for Jose Butto, Blade Tidwell, and Drew Gilbert. Now, the biggest takeaway out of this, everybody, outside the fact that the Mets obviously gave away a lot of young controllable assets, is the fact that the Mets are clearly all in. Like, when I say all in, we'll see exactly how far they're going to be willing to go in other trade negotiations. But the fact that we've kind of talked about this into reality a little bit in the sense of like what the Mets should do for the outfield, and they're pretty much guaranteed and destined to be adding an outfielder now, as well as adding into more in their bullpen and potentially more in the rotation front. You have to be happy. Oh, I said southpaw. I apologize. You want to know why I said southpaw? It's because I'm used to saying the southpaw and Gregory Soto, because that was the first trade the Mets made so far of significance leading up to the deadline. We love you, Wardy, but we hate this trade. Random, that's okay. You know what? Let's get a poll going in the chat as well. That's what we need to do next. I think that is important. Let's get a poll going in the live chat so that way we can see what you guys have to say about this more. See how drastic it is on being for or against this deal, too. I have a feeling there's going to be a good amount against just because of the assets you gave up, but at the same time, there's going to be plenty for, and we'll get into why. But let's pull up this poll. Emmanuel, thank you for the donation earlier. Bye-bye, Butto. Welcome, Rogers. Appreciate that from earlier. Hold on, everybody. I'm just filling it out now. All right, guys, the poll is up in the chat now for you guys to check out. Feel free to spam away on it. Let's see here in the chat. Says, Wardy, I'm sick of this offense. Let's see. You're going up there. Wardy, I'm sick of this offense. Yeah, I know. We're all frustrated with the offense, especially when the Mets are on the cusp of having another very underwhelming game against the San Diego Padres. Let's see here. He's 34, not 40. I'm aware he's 34 now. Did someone say that Tyler Rogers was 40 in the chat? I don't know who said that, but that's incorrect. Wardy, do you think we can get Jarren Duran? No. No. If I'm being point blank, no. Jarren Duran does not get traded at this year's deadline. That's done. We can stop talking about that. Finish the season with a sub 800 like that season. I don't think that's going to be the case, Nathan. He's going to pick it up. He's going to pick it up, but he's definitely a slump right now. Can you talk about these guys the Mets are losing? Yeah, I've talked about them plenty, but I'll reiterate. The Mets are giving up Jose Butto, and I meant to say this earlier, and I'll say it now as a matter of fact. And what exactly are the Mets losing and Jose Butto? Let's go ahead and break that down for a second. And I'll probably cut things off for our replay viewers before we get to the 50-minute mark. But Jose Butto, everybody, in 47 innings this season, has a sub 8K per 9 to a 4 walks per 9, a 3.6 ERA and a 4.2 expected ERA, a 3.3 FIP and a 4.1 expected FIP. Not terrible numbers by any stretch, and Butto has club control until 2031. But here's the thing. Club control means very little with someone like Jose Butto when he has no more minor league options. Jose Butto was closer to a DFA candidate than he was actually staying in this bullpen. And no, I'm not exaggerating as I say that. That's a fact. That's why the Mets trade him away, because they knew he wasn't going to be staying here. Then let's get on to Drew Gilbert, because Gilbert has had a very good year over the past month and a half in the minor leagues, but with that exception, there hasn't been a whole lot to love from Drew either. And Gilbert, who I wish absolutely nothing but the best for in San Francisco now, he obviously is under club control for a while, but Drew is another one of these guys that isn't getting any younger, right? He's already 24, turning 25 in September. And Drew had 14 home runs, 49 runs scored, and 52 RBIs in 87 games for Syracuse this year, including a 255 average, a 356 on base, and a 455 slug, good for 12% above league average as a batter there in AAA. Again, I got no well against Drew here. I wish him the absolute best. It's unfortunate to see him go, but you have to give to get, and clearly the Mets were very comfortable to part ways with someone like him because they did not see an immediate future with him. Furthermore, once the Mets land another outfielder, there really is not a future where you're going to actually have a guy like Drew Gilbert getting an opportunity anytime in the immediate future. That's why, and let's not forget this, guys, if you guys pay attention to the David Stearns pressers, then you know one of his pressers that he had over the past couple weeks, he was asked on the idea of the Mets considering any other in-house options there to be added to the club, meaning offensive options, and Drew Gilbert, among others. And he pretty much said no, like he's not expecting that to be the case. Pitching-wise, it's different because pitching is what the Mets have an abundance of there all the way up in AAA. But when it comes to the other areas, the offense is all at AA and at high A is where the offense is. Between Carson Bench, Jet Williams, Jacob Reimer, Jesus Baez, AJ Ewing, the list goes on from there. Those are the big batters. So Drew Gilbert, you will be missed, my friend, but hopefully we don't miss you too much because we know that means that Tyler Rogers performed well here. And last but not least, the other piece the Mets gave up in this deal is Mr. Blade Tidwell. Nothing personal against Blade at all, but he was never a guy that I anticipated would be staying here. I knew for certain that as soon as Blade Tidwell's name was coming up in trade talks, that he was like one of the first dominoes to fall because Tidwell just is not nearly as appealing to this organization as it is the case with some of the other guys that we talk, especially what goes without saying, not just Ton and Sproat and McClain, but this goes deeper, guys. This actually goes to the point of like Zach Thornton. This goes to the point of like Santucci. This goes to the point of like Dome. This goes to the point of like a lot of young arms the Mets have right now on the farm that they like to a degree a bit more than Blade Tidwell. And Blade, who exited today's Mets club as their 10th ranked prospect in 15 innings this season, we saw at the major league level, posted a 9 ERA, but a 5.8 expected ERA, a 6 walk per 9 to a 6 K per 9. Again, Tidwell was just rushed up in every opportunity he had this year. It really isn't Buddy's fault. He just wasn't ready. In 79 innings for AAA this season, though, a roughly 10 K per 9 to a 3.6 walks per 9. And then we see a 4.1 ERA. And then we also can't forget, in the case of Drew Gilbert, everybody, is that he was also Rule 5 eligible this year. You know, he was not going to be protected by this Mets team. And this is clearly telling again that the Mets feel the way that they do about these players. Wardy, do you think we acquire anyone else by the end of the day? I do. I actually do. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, if you're asking for my opinion, I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets made one more trade at least before the day ends, which part of me doesn't want that to happen just because it's going to make my day so much more hectic than it already is. But at the same time, I'd rather more happens today and things kind of being a little calm tomorrow just because I have so much coverage as is tomorrow, and I don't mind if there's gaps in things happening versus not happening. But I definitely see a world where the Mets acquire one more piece today. Gilbert is PCA 2.0. He's not, if you actually paid attention, their scouting, their draft years, and how they profile as a player. But we can go ahead and just lump them in because, God forbid, the Mets trade another outfield prospect that we're enamored with. Mind you, Drew Gilbert is currently at the age of at least 1 year older than Pete Armstrong. Can we please not lose sight of the fact of how young PCA was when the Mets trade him? He was still a teen versus when the Mets just gave up Drew Gilbert. He's turning 25 in September. I think that context alone is important. And I think it's really just a stupid mentality to lump PCA and Drew Gilbert in as the same thing when it's far from reality and the type of players that there actually are. Stop getting that connection just because that's the first guy that you think of when you think of an outfielder that we trade last. You know, trust me, the Mets have given up on a lot of other outfielders over the years, and a lot of them have amounted to nothing or not anything to have yourself losing sleep over. I'm going to go on a limb and say this falls in that category outside of the fact of when Drew Gilbert inevitably makes his debut later this year for San Fran, hits a bomb at Oracle Park, maybe hits one into McCovey Cove, and everyone's freaking out about it. Yeah, we'll worry about that once we get there. Juan, thank you so much for the $10 haul, my guy. I appreciate that. Juan says, I'm okay with the move. Pitching is very important. If everyone hasn't noticed, our pitching sucks. I want some offense. Then I'll be pissed if we only get Gregory and Tyler. Butto had to go. The Mets are going to get more than just what the bullpen acquisitions have been at this point. The Mets are expected to add one more reliever as well as adding to that offense and potentially the rotation. The rotation isn't a guarantee, but everything else, though, is certainly close to a lock is what it's feeling like at this point in time, everybody. So we're going to continue on the live show, folks, for another 10-plus minutes, but I do want to cut things off now to our replay viewers, to anyone that maybe didn't want this to be an hour-long live show breaking down a reliever that you may have known or maybe don't know, or maybe you're pissed off about what you gave up for him still, that being in the case of Tyler Rogers. But everyone watching live, guys, let's continue on the live segment to get into all your comments, questions, and concerns regarding this Mets team. What you got for your guy Wardy here before we get live again later on today. We'll have our next live show. But to everyone watching replay, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Give me all your key takeaways in the comments down below. Holy shit, Clay Holmes gave up. Oh, I read it wrong. I thought it said Clay gave up 8 earned runs. I was like, what the hell just happened? Clay Holmes' final line today, 3.2 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks. Yeah, Clay Holmes is not going to be a mainstay in the rotation all season long. I think that goes without saying, and that's what I got to say about that. Thank you guys again for watching. Live viewers, let's get those comments. People on replay, this is where we're cutting things off. Let's go, Mets. Peace out.